Go.
Grandpa, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Give it to you, Paul New in advance.
You ready for another one, Isaac? Next present going. Idle hands are the devil's work.
I love you, Grandpa.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'll give one to Mom and Daddy, one to you guys.
And let's see, well, I have to see what we
Where is he?
do.
That one. You can tell Grandpa.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Let's see
The
that.
red-headed
And
monsters.
that's just the boys, is that it?
great to remember.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Happy birthday, 1, 2, 3.
That goes without saying.
Bells and chocolates to eat to your heart's content.
I love you, Grandpa.
Just like me, nuts.
Don't do that to me. I don't want to be talking now. I'm trying to eat.
We didn't want to be yelling at you, the questions.
What?
So everybody in the family, sister, everybody
saying
contributed
something,
questions. And put them in the bowl.
You have to read the question and then.
Read the
Yeah,
question
read-
so we all know the question.
What is your earliest memory? Did you ever play a prank at school? Or did any of your friends play a prank that you remember? My earliest memory is basically being a child who was thought to have a problem with the measles, and my parents thought I was in a very desperate situation, and they bought me a horse, a wooden horse to ride. I never played pranks on anybody in school or any other place.
And your friends never played pranks?
Yeah, well, friends.
Did anybody play a prank on
Not
you?
that I remember.
It's about time we started.
Tell us about your parents. My mother and
Don't do it in 2
father
words.
were very, very nice to us, very
Quiet.
quiet. My father worked very hard to try to give us the best. We found out that my mother was a hoarder of money. When she died, my sister found $800 in the pocketbook.
Yeah, but she was saving that
She
to
was
give to
saving
Louie.
that. She's they were very considerate of us.
She was very, as her daughter-in-law, she was very fair. Whenever she'd get something for her daughter, she got something for me. She really tried to be very fair, and they were very nice people. Very quiet people, but very nice people.
What memories do you have of your grandparents? Very little. The one grandfather that I do remember was always sickly, and he was always close to being on death's bed, and he did die eventually. That was the grandparents.
He's named after his grandmother.
Grandpa, what were some of the ways that you played as a child? Did you play with your brother?
No.
Were there games? None at all.
See, that's it.
We were 60 years apart, and it never was in the level that I was.
So when you played with your friend, I mean, how did you play as a child? Ball?
What did you play?
Stickball,
Ball.
marbles,
Yeah,
marbles.
ball. I don't know. Iggy's.
Parks and YM and YHC.
YMCA.
Well, to put the question another way, if you had free time as a child, how would you spend your free time?
Trying to play baseball, softball.
Yeah. So that was your
Basketball.
passion as a child.
I don't think the difference in age, that's what makes the difference, because my brother was 6.5 years younger than I, and we were close because we had things like music in common, you know. And there's my sister, 16.5 years younger. And I'll never forget a friend of hers telling that she's 2 years difference with her sister, and that they're not as close as my sister and I. So I don't think the span of years makes the difference. It's what you may have in common with that person.
The thing is,
Oh, naked as a
I
jaybird.
was more interested in schoolwork and sports. My brothers and sisters were looking up to me to do things with them.
But I'll say that Louis, would do, if Charlie needed something, he would have done anything, dutifully, because it was his brother. I mean, there's no question about it, and he was proud of him and all that. But they didn't have that kind of warmth that exists between certain siblings.
So you said Uncle Louis was interested in tennis.
No, that's his son.
Oh.
Louis,
What was Uncle Louis interested in as a child? What amused him as a child?
Who?
Uncle Louis.
doesn't know.
You know, it's difficult.
He wasn't close enough to know.
I wasn't close enough to know that, really.
And how about reading?
He never came to me about it.
But you would watch him. How would he play? How would he amuse himself when he was by himself?
I think he played.
I don't know.
I think he played. He just had a different
Set of
group
groups.
that he played.
Different
And what about Reenie? Would she play with dolls? Would she?
Again,
Dancing.
nothing where I would be.
No, they gave her tap dancing lessons. That's what she
Yeah. I watched her grow up. I watched her take dance lessons and so on, but nothing special.
What memories do you have of your brother and sister?
Okay, my brother didn't go to past high school. He didn't want it to because of me. He didn't want to go through all of what I had to do. He had a son who graduated from college, and he played tennis, which I had played at that time. And he was telling me how good he was, and that he would.
No, but we're talking about your relationship with your brother and sister. What kind of a relationship would you say you had?
A relationship with my brother and sister. Basically, what the one brother who was not interfering with their growing up. They didn't get any special.
They knew they were brothers and sisters, but there wasn't there was no emotion,
No real emotion.
And even today, I mean, we care about them, about their welfare and all that, but we don't hear from them more than maybe once a year back. And then it's always nice. Never had an argument, really. They were dutiful, respectful, but there wasn't the kind of emotion that you would have found in my family, for instance, to this day. But not really. I mean, I know that they wish us well as we wish them well, but certainly, yeah. It's been many years. We made it a point before we went to Sacramento to visit with Aunt Rini, but they've never come out here. And
the only bad thing I've ever had, as far as relations, was with our aunts and uncles and so forth. We were here in California when my brother died. And we had just started a vacation. And it was called that he had died. Nobody wanted to. And he was picked up, he died in the street. And he was brought to a place, to a...
the morgue.
What do you call it?
The morgue.
To a morgue. And nobody wanted to identify him. So they called me to come. Since we just started vacation, I said I wanted her to be on her vacation. I came home to identify him and say within time or morning. And they were angry that she didn't come.
No, I don't think they were angry. I don't think they were angry.
Disappointed.
Maybe because as soon as I came home, I went directly there. No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. But, certainly I know that if we were to visit Florida and go to Aunt Rini, it would be very, welcome. It would be just fine.
Was the other part. The aunts and uncles were unhappy.
Grandpa, do you remember saving your money as a child for some purpose, some reason? Do you remember saving money?
Money? No.
Didn't you have in school that we had that all the kids had bank accounts and they would collect the money in school?
No.
Every week, 10 few cents and all that. I remember that. They taught us how to save money.
Did you have an allowance?
Yeah.
How much?
Well, whatever they could afford.
So you didn't count on getting a quarter every week or something like that? You just sometimes they'd give you a nickel or whatever they had.
No, he never learned to save. Learned to spend, but not to save.
So what would you spend if you had a nickel? What would you spend it on?
Well, I used to walk home from high school to save a nickel to be able to buy something like candy or ice cream or something of that sort.
You didn't walk home from high school. High school was boys' high. You took 2 trolley cars.
No, I stopped from boys' high. I used to walk home to save that nickel from the trolley car.
That was before you met me. Because
not to go, but to...
So what kind of candy would you buy?
Whatever.
Do you have a favorite? Did you have a favorite candy?
No, not that I could say.
Can you remember any of the candies that you would buy?
Yeah.
Like what?
To buy it.
No, the name of it.
What did it look like?
I
Like
have no
what?
idea.
Baby
Don't
Ruth.
remember.
Would you buy candy bars?
Baby Ruth.
Maybe not. I don't remember.
Cracker Jacks?
I remember that I would walk home.
Yeah. Did you have any other? You like to play ball, but in school sometimes kids have electives. Other theater or woodshop.
If I had stayed in high school and gone to the biology club, I might have won the biology medal. I didn't do it. The one who won it asked me if I belonged to the club because he thought I would be.
You're good for that.
That's the one we had to beat out.
So your favorite subjects in high
Was
school
biology.
was, yeah.
Math was easy for me.
When did you know you wanted to be a doctor?
When? Probably around when I was in 7th or 8th grade.
And did you always know and just, you know?
Yeah, I had that as my goal for a long time. In fact, my father tried once to find out how much money it would take for him to get me into a school in the United States. He found out that he needed $4,000, which he didn't have. And it would have been something in Philadelphia.
So it was still cheaper for you to take the airfare or whatever.
Both.
Boat?
Well, I had her as a wife,
Yeah.
and the VA. The government.
Yeah, the GI Bill.
So you could travel more
GI Bill.
cheaply.
And that was part of the reason that it was difficult to get into medical school because these fellows were taking advantage of it. And he was getting letters back that they, from like other states, that they had to take care of their own veterans first, that he could get on a waiting list, you know. So, and in New York State, boy, they could take the top of the crop because it was all paid for by the GI Bill, which was marvelous, yeah. And there were people that went into other, not just medicine, but there were people that learned other trades. Like we have a friend that went to learn how to be a photographer and opened up his own business. But it was the GI Bill that paid for his schooling. You know, that really was a wonderful thing for a lot of poor fellas. And most of the guys that he met in med school had that story that the GI Bill was. They bought the microscope and they
Do you still use the VA hospital at all for your own personal health?
Yes.
Do you still use the VA hospital for your own medical needs?
Now I am.
Now you do.
And the fact that I'm getting paid because of the damage to my ears caused by the 5-inch guns that we use on the ship.
Well, you know, they didn't know
They didn't
that
have
the ear
here.
and he was up there and the sounds of the cannons going off, it affected the nerves in his ear.
We were watching a movie recently of women military people, and, and the women were all helping to man the guns, and nobody, you know, those things were going off. It was World War.
Yeah.
Was it World War II? And so it's going off, and nobody's protected.
That's right.
So you're thinking you'd have like 20 people around one gun,
Yeah.
and they're all going to go deaf. Because of that.
Yeah. So that's why. But of course, it was my instigation because he never would have thought of doing it to say, see if you can get a disability on that, and there was no problem.
What have I had to undergo? I've had to undergo I had a hernia here.
Steph wanted to know what illnesses he's had.
Well, supposedly I nearly died of it from the measles
That was when you were younger.
when I was a baby. Nothing else. So nothing else to what's happening now.
How did your mother take care of you when you were sick?
Got a horse.
I have no idea.
You
I
don't
don't know. I don't know how that I was sick when I was a child.
Well, if you had the
When I
measles.
I was a baby, probably under 1 year old when I had the measles.
But if you
They were
got
living in Chicago at that time.
You never mentioned Winnie.
Do you remember your first day at school as a child? Did you have pets growing up? My first days at school are not really remembered. What I remember is in my first grade, I sat next to a young girl who was a very attractive, nice person. And I started buying chewing gum. So at that time they had rings and other things in the chewing gum, and I would give it to her.
Wait, there was another question.
Wasn't there another part to that question?
Her name was Rosalind.
Wasn't there another part to that question?
What? Any pets?
Yeah.
Did you have any pets?
Did you ever have pets?
Animals?
Did you have any pets when you were growing up?
No pets.
No. They could only afford to feed the family.
No.
Please tell us about your bar mitzvah.
No.
Do you have any mishaps?
No.
My bar mitzvah was in a very small shul in Brooklyn. It was an easy bar mitzvah, an easy talk and reading of the Torah, and that was it. Then we went home to my parents' house, and our aunts and uncles all were there. And that's where we learned that to become 13, you're a pencil.
Pen.
And a pen.
Today I am a pen.
Today I am
That
a
was
pen.
the traditional gift.
Tell us about your early childhood and growing up in New York in the 30s. Well, that was easy. Just going to school. I was a good scholar of the school. The funniest thing about it is when I was in the 8th grade, I had an English teacher who thought my writing was Chinese. He took me and several other students with our papers to the class to show the class the horrors of our writing. And in the early, as I say, he was a good student. I skipped twice in public school. Loved math and no problems there. Do you have any specific memories of the Great Depression? Did you ever have a run-in with the mafia? The Great Depression we did have a problem at that time. My father had to go on relief, which he hated, and eventually he got off by working at 3 jobs at a time, 3 different companies. I had no run-ins with the mafia.
At least not that he's going to say. He's not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. On camera.
His lips are sealed.
Tell us about the tryouts with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Have a good role player or you really? I tried out with the Pittsburgh Pirates shortly after I came back after being discharged. The tryout was okay, but not worth their thinking that I could play for it. That was it. Have a good baseball player were you really? Basically it was more softball. And I was pretty good at that. I was a pitcher and an infielder. And in college, we had intramural softball contests. And I used to say, if I couldn't hit the ball, they couldn't. Do you remember the first time you flew on an airplane? No, I wasn't scared.
Oh, he went to Holland by boat.
Tell us what religion played, what role religion played in your life growing up, and how your family then dealt with its Jewishness.
Wait a minute, I didn't understand it. Tell us what role religion played in your life growing up and how your family dealt with its Jewishness. Oh, that'll be interesting. Go ahead.
Very well.
It had no effect on me at all. Our family was the Jewish problem, not problem, but the ones who were holiday kind.
3 times a year. 3 times a year.
Yeah, 3 times a year. We used to go on big holidays. That.
Well, it's...
Then I met her family, and I had to go every.
He learned.
I had to learn to go every week.
However, his parents were very respectful of it. You know, his mother kept a kosher home to the best of her ability. She used glass dishes, you know, but she certainly didn't bring anything that wasn't kosher into her house. But they did eat out. You know, they ate everything out, so that made a difference. But they certainly knew they were Jewish. They, you know, stayed home for the Jewish holidays, and but
In schools.
Okay. Wait.
How did your family sacrifice in the face of World War II? What happened, their sacrifice was they let me enlist in the U.S. Navy. Tell us about the first time you visited a foreign country. The first time I visited a foreign country was when I was in the Navy. We had just put in a new ship into commission. We were making a trip out from Boston to go to the Pacific, and we stopped Scotland first and then went to England, France, Greece, Egypt through the Suez Canal, and then directly to Japan, the area near Japan. My first impression in Scotland was I was attracted to a young Scottish young lady, and we're trying to get a kilt. She promised me to get it, but never did.
But his sailor suit was full of cashmere.
And then the next important thing that happened while I was in the Navy is I had a young lady friend that we were very close to each other. But I got a Dear John letter, which is the reason she was able to marry me.
You're not supposed to tell that story.
I didn't know until I got to college. Back to college. The travel to China was while we were stationed in the Pacific, New York, China. We used to go and play some baseball on the field for recreation. And we would hear the Chinese and Japanese shooting at each other. That was it. Tell them what it was like to be in the Navy. What your work was on a daily basis. What your buddies were like. What places you saw besides China. I was in the Navy. I went, of course, to Samson for the break-in as a Navy. I eventually went to school for 4 months in navigation. To learn how to be in navigation.
That's
I
right.
played a lot of baseball while there. And the
Don't you think that's
unfortunate
funny?
thing while I was
Navigating?
On the baseball field in school, Franklin D.R. died, and it was announced while I was on the baseball field. On a daily basis, I was up on the navigation area at all times.
On the poop deck.
And poop deck. It's called the poop deck, yes. I learned how to be able to handle the wheels and the heavy ship. I also more or less was one of the people in the department. I was allowed to do a lot of the note-taking and being what we were seeing, how we passed the area.
Is it true that you backed the boat into the pier?
No.
You laugh about the navigation, but they never made it to the war.
That's right, they did.
What was the worst case of anti-Semitism that I personally experienced? None really. In fact, I was when I was in the Navy, an Italian person who was part of the group, the navigation group, told me I was a good Jew.
Not like the others.
Not like the others.
That wasn't anti-Semitism. Ignorance is bliss.
Can you describe the first time you saw Bubba? The first time I saw Bubba was after I had finished being in the Navy and was returning to college. At that time, I met a young lady while I was on vacation with my parents in New Jersey. She told me that I told her I was going to go back to Brooklyn College, where she happened to be a member. She said that they were attempting to develop a male composing to the house order that they had.
House plan.
Though your mother was a member of that house order, and I dated that girl for a while, but she couldn't take my quietness. So eventually, she substituted it.
On the contrary.
It was done through another girl in the house who suggested it. And we made a date, and from that on, she was my date. What is one of your favorite memories of something special you have either done for or with Bubba? Got married.
That was kind of nice. So we've had a lot of very wonderful.
Did you ever make a fool of yourself in front of Bubba or of her family while you were courting? Not that I remember.
It's one of those things you forget. He didn't, because he didn't say anything, so.
Now, who was the best man at your wedding? It's a good question. I don't remember.
Well, I don't think.
He was a very good.
I remember.
He was the best man. He's a good friend.
Yeah, that's right. No, it wasn't your brother? Yes, it was.
Probably.
It was your brother.
Were you nervous? No. Did Bubba ever burn a dinner that turned out to be a disaster?
I don't understand. Say the question again.
Did Bubba ever burn dinner or prepare a dinner that turned out to be a disaster? Not that I really
I
remember.
do. When we lived in Holland, my mother was a great soup maker. And so I went to make soup, and I liked pea soup. So I read the recipe, and it said, put the peas in the bottom of the pot and cover the peas with water. Well, I put in water, and it said to cover them. But as the water rose, so did the peas. I kept putting in water, and the peas kept going up. So I cooked it anyway, and it tasted all right. The only problem was that I put some in the plate. You had to whirl it around very fast, very fast, very fast, and take a spoon because it sank to the bottom. It was like sand in the bottom of the ocean. It just was too much water. That was one time. The other time was because I didn't understand, and I went shopping in Holland. I bought what I thought were green peppers. They were hot peppers. And I made them with liver because we liked liver. We couldn't eat them. They were that hot. And and money was so important to us, we really had to throw it out. It was impossible. So he doesn't remember that, thankfully. That's why we're still married.
No, I didn't have much combination.
Well, we don't know what the question is.
Do you remember your first conversation with Jada about football? Not really.
Oh, I do. How could you not remember?
Because it wasn't important to me.
Who wants to hear that story?
Tell us.
Whole story.
The fact is that we had been going together for six weeks
Oh,
consecutive.
that's Jada. That's her father, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. We had been going together for about 6 weeks. Her father wanted to talk to me. He said, she was a wonderful girl, but she had to be careful of who she dated, because whoever she dated could always throw her away and go and marry somebody else. At that point, and he said, why do you want to think of marrying her if you want to become a doctor? And I said I was very happy to be with her, and I intended to marry her.
And so my father said, well,
I don't like short
long
engagements.
She graduates from college, you get married. I graduated on June 14th, we got married on June 18th. But his parents were not that thrilled. They thought we should wait. My father said, no.
Also, they weren't so thrilled because they thought that I was going to marry the girl they both didn't know that I had gotten a letter from the girl who sent me the Dear John letter. She thought they always said, thought you were going to marry the redhead. Okay, this is a very ticklish question. What are your memories of the birth of Stephen in 1952? Were you allowed to watch, or were you standing in the waiting room smoking a cigar? First of all, he was born while I was still studying. It was a time that Bubba was home by herself as a parent. And he was born the year and the date Eisenhower became president.
Yeah.
I was on pins and needles because I couldn't be there to know anything until she finally sent me or called me.
Somebody must have called.
But we found out, I found out.
Oh no, you called. What happened was, I went to the doctor for the last visit, and unbeknownst to me, he kind of figured something was not the way it should be, and he said to me, remember it was on a Thursday. How would you like to have your baby tomorrow? I said, great. You know, I was with my mother. He said, but I want to have a picture taken first. So I went to the X-ray department in another building, and all that guy told me, oh, your baby is doing this, you know. But they admitted me to the hospital. My mother took home my clothes, and innocently, and even though I was an educated girl, I knew nothing about giving birth. Nobody had ever spoken about it. And in the books that I read the development of the fetus, but not how you give birth. We never had animals. I never saw an animal give birth. And I thought that, honestly, I thought they'd just open your stomach and take out the baby. So I sit down while I'm waiting. My mother went home, and I wrote Grandpa a letter saying, the doctor says the baby's going to be born tomorrow, meaning Friday, you know. And I give it, my mother mails it. Well, they start giving me injection to start the labor, and nothing happened. So Saturday they sent me home. They told me to come back Sunday. They start giving me more injections. And then on Monday, finally they called in this surgeon, and my doctor said, you know, her husband is overseas, and the baby keeps getting bigger. Maybe we should take the baby. In the meantime, he gets my letter. It says that I would have given birth on Friday, and it's like Monday. So he was a little panicked. Anyway, in order to do the cesarean, I had to go to the big hospital. So he called up the maternity hospital where I was supposed to go, and they said she's not here. She's in the Bronx hospital. And so he called there, and at that point I had given birth. That's how he found out that the baby, that Stephen was born.
He was born
on election day
day.
that year.
What about Elliot and Brian?
Well, see, the doctor had said, well, they'll let me see if I go into labor, but when push came to shove, they just made the appointment for me to go. I went to the beauty parlor, had my hair done, and so it was pretty much that's how they, but by that time, of course, Grandpa was already in practice.
Do you have any stories about the trouble or mischief Stephen or any of your sons got into?
Oh.
He's forgotten.
Century Plaza, Charlie.
Brian.
Century Plaza. Help, I'm being held hostage, melt or made.
Oh.
And how about the ice cubes over the balcony? And the ice cubes in the swimming pool? Talking about mischief that they got into.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us again.
This was coming on vacation to California. And we stayed at the, what was the name of the hotel?
Century Plaza.
Century Plaza. And Stephen was around 13-ish or thereabouts.
He was the instigator.
And we had all three of them.
Yeah.
And they were we were high up on the flights, on the rooms. And they
No. They were having such a good time, Stephen and Elliot, and Brian didn't want to leave his brothers. So he over the balcony. And the doorman down there like looking up, thinking somebody's washing the windows. I did, once we were in a motel and they were throwing ice cubes over the balcony, and all of a sudden the telephone rings and it's the desk calling up about, because we had two rooms, see, we were in the other room, they were there doing their mischief.
What was our worst vacation?
The Century
Any vacation?
No.
New
Yeah,
Hampshire.
I don't think we had any.
New Hampshire.
Where have you lived, Please start with the location of your birth, all the way until the present in Sacramento. I was born in the Bronx, close to the last, which was the hospital that I'm no longer there. I wasn't there. We moved to, the family moved to Bedford Avenue near Ross.
In
And,
Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. That's in Brooklyn. That's where I was born.
And then
The
we
Then we lived in the Bronx, and we went back and forth in the Bronx and Brooklyn because of the financial problems.
Who's this?
Then we have together lived in the Bronx in our own house with Stephen and some of the other children. Then we moved to Carmel, New York.
Yeah, and then
Then to Sacramento. Then from Carmel to here in Sacramento.
2 places in the Bronx. 3 places in the Bronx if you count your dad. Your side as a
We
partner.
should count them because we did live there.
What was your first car, year, make, and model? How many cars have you owned? Well, the first car was a Ford.
Year.
Model, I don't remember the model. Now, we also owned,
beige.
eventually we owned the Ford. We went up to a Chrysler. And then a Jeep. And then the Honda or an Acura at that point. Do I remember the first one?
I don't think you didn't give the right makes because we only went by the color. First car was a green car, the next one a red car. I don't remember what the car was, but there was a Chrysler there. But that one you leased, I remember. And we always had. Then we had 2 cars.
What is my favorite memory as a father? Having 3 wonderful boys.
2 of them.
That's not a memory. I mean, a memory. You don't have particular memories?
No.
Then when you ask me, it'll be different.
What was the nicest gift that Grandpa ever gave you? Or your favorite gift from Grandpa?
The children.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell the Valentine one.
Yeah.
The Valentine chocolate one.
Oh, well, see, I can tell you that the first date I had with Grandpa was on October 29th. And that February, he came to the house with 3 boxes, Valentine's, red Valentine candy. I think it was Barton's candy. Big one, medium size, and a little one. The largest one was for my mother, the medium size was for me, and the smallest one was for my sister, who at that time was like a year and a half, you know. But they were chocolates, yeah. He did that on Valentine's Day, which was very nice. See, my father never did anything like that because it was Saint Valentine, you see. So to my father, it wasn't a Jewish holiday. But Grandpa's given me a lot of very nice gifts, and he hasn't stopped even now. He recently gave me this it's a snowflake. As a matter of fact, Annie was looking at it. But really, the children, that was the most wonderful gift, you know.
Except for that Coke Casino Royale.
The thing is, he didn't have to ever give me anything, you know? Really. I'm grateful to have him, even though I make him miserable, but that's part of it. I know I make him miserable. It keeps him alive. I'm telling you, otherwise he'd be truly...
Did you ever ice skate on the canals in Holland?
That's
No.
interesting.
Tell us the hardest thing about medical school. Basically, it was just taking the tests in Dutch because we had to learn some Dutch, even though the teacher who took the test always says speak English. That was the biggest thing was learning Dutch.
What do you think this? Actually, what made it difficult was that they were always oral exams, not written exams.
Yeah.
And they'd go into a room alone with a table where there were 3 professors, and they would ask 3 questions based on the entire year of learning. They could ask a question about anything that you would have learned that year, and you never knew what they were going to ask. That's what it was based on. So, and there were 5 disciplines. There was one for anatomy and one for pediatrics and all that. Well, if you failed one of them, you had to wait 3 months, come back, and take all 5 again, and maybe that time you passed that one and failed another one. And it would again be 3 months. If you failed 2 of them, it took 6 months. Consequently, in Holland, at that time, you had interns that were 42 years old. But still they could get all 5 going. That's what made it difficult, the fact that it is. And Grandpa one time failed one of them, and he said something to the professor, but that was such a small point he did. He said, you want to be a good doctor? Come back. And that's what they had to do. So that's what made it difficult. An oral exam is much more tension, than a written one. You have time to think when you're looking at it,
What career would you have chosen if you couldn't become a doctor? Probably a science teacher.
Just imagine a science teacher. But a teacher has to talk.
At that time, I talked.
You sure that once he married you?
Yeah, right.
Tell about your time in Holland studying by yourself without books. Well, I had 2 friends that are the reason we went to Holland, who also wanted to be doctors, and had the same problem I had in getting into school in the States. I was always with them and we were friends. Nothing special. Tell us what it is like to be a doctor making house calls and being one of the last doctors to make house calls. When I was making house calls, I was in the Bronx, and the Bronx was a very tough place to make house calls because they were
It was stairs to climb.
they were no. A lot of the people that I made were not of white ethnics. So you had to be afraid of going to them. But it was something I enjoyed doing because I felt that I could help people.
What about the house calls when you lived in Carmel?
This is the first ones.
What about the second one?
Yeah.
What is your
No, tell us about the house calls. That's more interesting. Tell them who you made the house call to. Elizabeth Montgomery.
Oh.
Who's that?
I did make house calls in Carmel, New York, and one of my patients was Elizabeth Montgomery.
Well, that's the
And
mother.
her
The
and
mother
her
of-
daughter, who was one of these people who always were off to Europe, naturally because they were wealthy.
But they don't. Not everybody here knows.
What
who
is your
Elizabeth
earliest
Montgomery is.
memory?
Who was Elizabeth Montgomery?
Did you
Oh,
ever
yes. Well,
play a
wait.
prank at school?
Elizabeth Montgomery.
Da-da,
No.
da-da-da-da,
What was
da-da-da.
But that was the daughter. He took care of the mother, who had been married to, now what was it, George Montgomery? No, not George.
No.
The one that was that was always around President Eisenhower.
Oh,
And he
that
did
one.
the radio programs, television programs. Montgomery was the
Oh,
second.
the
Montgomery
British
Ward.
General Montgomery.
General.
No, not General Montgomery. He was an actor, and but on that, don't
Sure,
forget, in those
Montgomery
days, television was live. It wasn't George. George was the actor. This was
The Montgomery brothers.
it's
They flew under
how
the wings.
quickly fame fades. But he had divorced Elizabeth, and her daughter was the actress for.
Lesser known Simon Montgomery.
And of course, because of that, we went to visit the daughter in Hollywood. She was very
Famous
nice.
circus acrobat.
In your medical practice, have you ever delivered a baby? Yes. Several babies. Part of our training was being midwives. And we delivered a lot of babies. I've had some babies named after me.
Really?
Listen, how?
Did you do it deliver those at home?
Never performed a
And he used to go there
C-section.
on his bicycle.
And do I have any funny stories from my medical practice? Funny? No.
Oh, I'm sure you just don't remember.
But I've had some. My medical practice, when I was coroner, I was called to a area in the vicinity of our current thing because of a young girl that was found.
This is
dead.
funny?
Not funny.
They asked for money.
It's okay. It's okay.
Sort of funny.
Funny peculiar.
It turned out that she was not committed suicide, but was killed by somebody who was a drug addict. She was part of it, the problem. Also,
The guy on the lake.
also
The guy
committed
that
suicide.
fell over. was drinking too much beer at night. They used to go fishing. So they got called, this guy had drowned. He probably stood up to relieve himself, and he fell over and he drowned. And the boat was full of beer cans.
Do you have any funny stories from medical school? From medical school, there's really no funny things, except not funny, but when I was attending medical school, they also had a basketball team, and we had an outside baseball group team. I played on both the basketball and baseball team. With the basketball team, we went to a tournament in Belgium. We ended up in second place, and I had been mentioned in the paper there as the American, as they say
American.
in their language, making a basket. Unfortunately, papers that had all these things about what I did, both in basketball and in baseball, were lost. I brought them home, and we were moving from one place to another, and we had no room to put memories and to
we had it in a trunk.
Trunks, and we took the trunk to a friend of hers, and we left it there. Unfortunately, the friend got divorced, the trunks got lost, and in that loss were pictures of funny pictures of me playing baseball for Dutch people. And it was really funny and characteristic. Also lost were my discharge papers from the Navy, because they were in that. But that's about it. No problems with computers or anything like that. Oh, James Earl Jones happened to be a patient sent to me for
Excuse me.
a complete examination prior to his becoming a
Girl.
not becoming something on the radio. We did a wonderful job. The girls in the office loved it. They got his autograph. He was a terrific person. Very nice.
Well, can you tell us the story about the patient?
Did you want it now?
Sure, because
Oh, I thought they said after. No, one day a patient that had never been there before, a young woman walks in, I think with the explanation that she had a bad cold. Anyway, for some reason or other, she went into the office with Grandpa, and for some reason he asked her to disrobe so he could examine her. And to his surprise, it turned out to be a man. And what he really was trying to get someone to help him, he wanted to change his sex. And so he thought Grandpa could help him go through the legalities of it. But of course, Grandpa, just blinked. I mean, he didn't know how to take it. For Grandpa, he was speechless. Actually, you did take him on as a patient, didn't you?
And that patient was James Earl Jones?
Tell us about the strangest patient you ever had. Basically, Bubba told you about that one.
Tell us.
The strangest patient was the one who wanted to become a female and went through the process. That's the strangest one.
What about the next strangest?
The next strangest one is the one that was a success for me, was a young girl who tried to commit suicide because she had become an addict. And I worked with her, I got her off the addiction. She eventually left Carmel and married somebody, and she had children, and turned out to be fine.
How about the next stranger?
Are you still in touch with her?
The next strangers. I'm thinking of the girl that came in.
Other strangest people. I had a young lady who was a mother of a child who hung herself. And at that point I was a coroner, and I had called to see her, not as a physician, but as a coroner.
I was thinking of the one that came in with rings in her nipples. That was a strange one. Remember, he came home and he was like stunned, like what I saw today. You know.
Oh, another strange one that I can think of is, as a coroner, I was called to a judge's house where the judge had committed suicide by strangulation, and it turned out that he was a pervert.
He was what?
That's why, a pervert.
Oh, wow.
And that's why he committed suicide.
All right. I thought
Thank
stranger
you for
was
sharing.
the time he went to. The stranger was the time he went to was called to a trailer camp, and the guy died. You know, probably had a heart attack, sitting on the toilet. Dead, sitting on the toilet, dead.
I had to retire because I couldn't keep up with the idea of putting it into the computer.
Yeah.
I was old-fashioned. I would like to write it. What advice would you give to your newly married grandchildren regarding having a happy and faithful marriage? Love each other and be kind to each other. That's the best way. And never cheat.
That's the best advice.
How crazy is it for you that in your lifespan you've gone from the invention of the television to the invention of the iPod?
That's an iPhone.
As far as I'm concerned, it's miserable because I am not compatible with the iPods. Television is okay. We enjoy looking at it. But anything other than that, with the computer, the iPods, out of my reach. Do you miss the fact that not everyone wears suits to work anymore? No. Does it bother you that young people wear headphones in their ears while walking along the street, that few people stop to say hi to you in passing? Yes. I find that people who wear headphones are very selfish, really. What do you think of the change in manner of young people today versus in your own time of youth? It's difficult to say because it's a change of values, change of abilities, in a fact that people are able to do things that we couldn't do before with iPods, with cell phones and so on. It's something that you're brought up on, and you can't really complain in progress at all for that.
Yeah, but does mean they could have poor manners?
Well, that leads to poor manners, the fact that they have iPhones.
How about the cell phones?
And cell phones. They're more important to them than manners.
And the tweeters and the Twitters.
Jason wants to know, what wisdom have you learned to pass on to a 17-year-old? Be considerate of your parents. Be considerate of your friends. Try to do as well as you can for yourself. Don't be selfish. learn how to talk and behave in public. And be kind to your mother and father.
Favorite grandchild?
No.
It's me. I knew it's me.
Well, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book?
Did you, Jenny?
I wouldn't put anyone as a favorite.
What are some of your favorite books? What comes to mind? Books that you've enjoyed?
Science fiction.
Yeah.
I enjoy science.
Ray Bradbury. Yeah. But actually, you'll find, Rebecca, as you grow older, well, it's just like saying which is your favorite child. I know that there are some people that will tell you who they feel is favorite, and it always astonishes me. I don't see how anybody, I don't care how many children you have, how you can, one could be the favorite. Many times it appears that way because you're giving one more attention than the others, and that sometimes is because they need it, that particular one needs it. And the danger there is that the one you think doesn't need it because he's quiet or she's quiet about it, really does need it. So it's finding some kind of a balance. But each child in and of him or herself is special. It's like saying, you know, like apples or pears. I mean, there's just no comparison. I don't understand how anybody could have a favorite child. And it does make for bad. I mean, look at the story of Cain and Abel. From the very beginning, that's one of the lessons from that. What happens when you show. And even with Joseph, you know, you have to be very careful. The part of it is so that your children don't think that you're favoring one over the other. It's finding that balance of how to give enough time to each of them, you know.
What psalm or verse of the Torah do you like best? Very difficult question.
Why? 23rd. Who is my shepherd?
That's Grandpa's.
I don't think I have any.
Yes, you do. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
What?
The Lord is my shepherd when he hears me. No, okay. All right, he does.
For someone who is not at the party, how would you say they celebrate your birthday? How should they celebrate your birthday? I have no reason to tell them to do anything about it. It's their decision of what they do.
That's it?
That's it.
Is that it? Thank you. Now, do you have any words to say to the family on the occasion of your 85th birthday?
I thank you all for giving me such a good impression of my family.
Oh.
I have nothing to say that you could have done wrong or in any way could be any difficulties.
And I could tell you, I can sense a positive vibe from the minute he came here, and every year. There's something very comforting about being here that I get from Dad. I know when he's here. So it's been very positive for him. Now
Now you have some editing to do.
If God is good